Hello. I'm Interweb Studios and today we revisit the thread regarding what is the craziest thing that has ever happened to you. If you have not checked out the first video, go check it out to see what other stories you may have missed. Let me know if you want to see a part 3 because I really enjoyed reading this thread. With that, sit back and enjoy. Taking a beautiful Saturday morning ride home on my motorcycle. Minivan pulled out in front of me and totaled the motorcycle and van. Hospital did a scan of my head. Come to find out I had brain cancer that we caught very early, which may have saved my life. My friend Emily and her husband were in a horrific car accident last year. Neither were wearing seat belts and luckily they both survived after being thrown from their SUV as it rolled. Emily had a scan and they found a malignant tumor on her brain before it was too late and she's cancer-free today. So glad it turned out for the best for you too. I was walking through the woods with my boyfriend in high school and we found some papers scattered everywhere. They were really old and gross, but we were like, oh, what if it's the D.B. Cooper briefcase or something, and picked up a sheet to see what it was, and it was a homework assignment I completed. Nothing could have prepared me to see my own name in my own childhood handwriting in the middle of the woods. Lol. I was at a stoplight in a convertible, and a taxi cab came hurtling in my direction at over 100 miles per hour. He thought his brakes failed, but he was actually pounding the accelerator. He went into a ditch as he approached me, and it sent him airborne. He scraped along the side of me, his tires left a mark at about my elbow level. His bumper grazed my head, and he flipped 3 times, and crashed into the truck in front of me. His bumper removed a mole on the back of my head, and I had a massive concussion that kept me in the hospital for a week, but I was otherwise unhurt. Incredible car accident. His bumper removed a mole on the back of my head. This is not a mole removal method recommended by dermatologists. He removed his mole using this one simple trick. Dermatologists hate him. Was going from Rio de Janeiro to Paris with my aunt and cousins. The day before we were supposed to fly, we changed our flight to the following day so someone could pick us up at the airport when we arrived. Our original flight was the Air France 447, that fell in 2009 and everyone died. As I walked into a high school hockey game, I had a strong premonition I would be hit with a hockey puck while sitting in the stands. I told all my friends, who very much laughed and gave me shit. I asked them to choose our seats, which ended up pretty far away at center-ish ice. They made fun of me all game until halfway through the second, when a puck comes screaming off the ice and hits me square in the chest, falling flat into my open hands. We never talked about it much after that, and no, I do not think I'm psychic. It was just the first craziest thing that happened to me that popped in my head. I still have the puck 30 years later. Reminds me of the time I was driving with my brother one night. I had the thought and just said to him, wouldn't it be crazy if I hit a deer? Guess what decided to show up about 10 seconds later? Have a $2 bill that has me and my wife's signature on it saying, just the two of us. We did it when we first got together and after a while had it framed. Some years later it was stolen by some jackass who decided to break into my house. I ended up going to some random gas station weeks later and got it back as change. Literally just stood there and stared at it in disbelief and told the cashier about it. Just insane coincidence and luck. Still have that sucker and it's been another 5 years. My only question is, who steals $2? I moved away from my hometown when I was 20. I started working for a company that had several locations around the city. One day I just happened to be walking past one of the locations that I didn't work at because I was going to an eye appointment. Right as I was walking by, a guy the first knew from that other location walks out the door and tells me that my mom is on the phone. She was desperately trying to get in touch with me because my grandfather had died. She knew the name of the company I worked for but didn't know which location I worked at, so she got an operator to connect her with one of the locations at random. The guy the first knew said he was on the phone with her and was just starting to explain that I didn't work at that location when he looked out the window and saw me walking by. My dad wrote a book a very long time ago, and signed the copy that he gave to his in-laws. Years after he had died I loaned the signed copy to a guy the first was dating. We stopped seeing each other and he never gave it back. Years later I decided I wanted a copy of my dad's book even though it wouldn't be my signed copy, so I ordered it used on Amazon. The book that arrived is the signed one I'd loaned out. Turns out he had sold it to a used bookstore, and I just happened to order from them. I've mentioned this before, but people still don't believe me. I always have to call 911 at least twice per year, and it's been that way for 12 years now. One year it was 4 times. I've witnessed house fires, field fires, barn collapse, car accidents, suicides, heart attacks, seizures, strokes, choking, and I'm not sure what else. I've seen 4 people die in front of me. I'm cursed and have no idea what I did to deserve this. If curious, this year I've already called twice. January, a truck overturned on the highway and almost hit me. June, I drove by a home and it was on fire. Nobody was home, luckily. Maybe you are supposed to be there in those moments for a reason. You actually call 911 and don't just keep driving. I woke up to a really loud noise. Then I noticed that one of the blades of my ceiling fan had come off and was buried in the wall next to my head. I was working a front desk job at a small office in a strip mall. A car pulled up, went over the curb, through the window, and hit the desk as I was sitting there. On May 2, 2019, I was attacked by a hive of bees. The nurses stopped counting stingers at 600 with plenty more to go. They were flying in my mouth as I was screaming. A live bee was extracted from my nose at the I work with bees, and often Africanized ones. Good info for anyone if being attacked by bees and you can think clearly enough. Cover your face holes as best you can and get to any kind of darkness, shelter. Water is not ideal. I have encountered hives that would kill an adult human, and 500 plus stings is often lethal for most humans. You likely have some sort of natural resistance to bee venom. I'm so glad to hear you survived. I had the lower bunk of a set of bunk beds. I was about 3-4 years old at the time, and I woke up and ran to my parents' room just minutes before the top bunk smashed down on my lower bunk. We all ran in and found my older sister sitting up on the upper bunk as it lay on my lower bunk, crying but otherwise fine. I don't know that it could have killed me. I kind of doubt it would have been that bad, but it definitely would have hurt me if I'd still been there when it crashed. My husband and I woke up in the middle of the night to a hideous growling noise in our bedroom. We were both jarred awake at the same time and started trying to turn on the lights, phone, lamps, whatever we could reach. And there beyond the footboard of our bed, were 2 collarless, identical-looking gray cats, growling at each other. We only have one gray cat. Literally seconds after we flipped on the lights, they get into a fighting, hissing match all about the room while my husband and I try to snap out of shock. We're chasing these cats around, and I'm screaming to him, "Grab Nana," and he's yelling, "I don't know which one is ours." In between several oh my gods and WTFs, and the moments that we could break them up enough to get a decent look at them, we could not identify our cat and had no clue how another got into our bedroom on the 2nd floor. Finally they run into the next bedroom and one cat jumps out an open window onto a ledge. Which is when we realized the friend who'd stayed over a few nights before, left a window open. Talk about 5 long minutes in the twilight zone. P.S. We're like 97% sure it was not our cat that jumped back out the window. Missed an archery target and hit a copperhead snake that was hiding in a bush. I got into a massive car wreck, with the owner of the company I worked for, broke my neck and left wrist. 2 months later my dad killed himself. The owner made me use my vacation days to mourn my dad, so I sued him for getting us into a wreck. Ended up getting an insane amount of money. Quit my job, sold my house for double what I paid. Been living in a travel trailer, seeing America, ever since. I played poker once with Chris O'Donnell in a skeevy riverboat casino in Illinois. I got dealt a straight flush and won a $5,000 instant bonus for it. It was an otherwise low-stakes table. The worst part is that I had no clue who Chris O'Donnell was. When you hit a bonus like that, they close the table for a few minutes to review the video and make sure you didn't pop an ace out of your sleeve. Chris left the table and immediately everybody started talking about him and completely ignored my gorgeous straight flush that was still sitting on the table. Ah well, I got paid. Still the only time to this day I've won any kind of remotely material amount in a casino. Edit, since many are asking, it was in or near Elgin. Other commenters have suggested the boat was called Grand Victoria, but I honestly don't remember its name. Timeframe was mid-90s. Christ O'Donnell, you took everything from me. I don't even know who you are. One time in Barbados I went into a bar. I was about 16 years old at the time, and in Barbados they will serve anyone who can see over the bar. Anyway, I had a quarter in my pocket and I saw a one-armed bandit slot machine over in the corner. A guy got up from it and went to the bar. I said to my friends, "Watch this." I went over to the slot machine, put the quarter in and hit jackpot. $800 was the payout. When I went to the cage with all the coins converting them to cash, I noticed that the machine didn't pay out the amount it was supposed to and I complained. The lady said, "I wouldn't complain if I were you. That guy has been feeding that machine for a week and you stole his jackpot. We're gonna give him some money and you kids scram from here or he might get angry with you." I left and had free drinks for the rest of my vacation. Yeah, I had that happen to me from a little old lady. She was playing a video lottery machine behind me and I could hear her inserting bills over and over for about a half hour. I went to the bathroom and came back and she moved to another machine. I asked her if she was done and she said yes. I put $20 in it and like the second spin I got the bonus, and it re-triggered. I ended up winning like $3,500 and she flipped the duck out, saying I stole her money and that she wanted half because she fed the machine and yada yada. She called me every name in the book and tried telling the manager that she wasn't done playing it, she is entitled to half and all that. Funny thing is that as I was winning I was planning on giving her some or at least pay her tab or something till she flipped. I was in a coffee shop in Austria called the Pharmacy. I asked for the toilet and the old man behind the counter told me to go downstairs and to use the door that said, "Do not enter." I'd done what I was told but found I was trapped in the dark some storage room. Fearing it was a Fritzl room I switched on my phone light and noticed a ladder, so I climbed up it. At the top I exited a hatch and was surrounded by horses. Very expensive looking horses. I'd come up in the stables of the Vienna Spanish riding school. Had to exit through the riding ring. He probably laughs his ass off at the tourists who he sends through the horse stables. My dad was a teenager, around 1960, and got in a huge fight with his grandmother about making long-distance calls. She was so angry with him that she pulled the phone off the wall and threw it out their second-story apartment window on the south side of Chicago. Fast forward nearly 20 years and my family was visiting relatives in Arizona. I was 7 at the time, 1979. My dad is telling the whole room at a huge party this story. This guy stands up and asks, "Was that at the corner of these two streets near where my dad grew up?" He goes, "Yes." Guy proceeds to tell the story of driving down the street in a convertible and having a phone land on the passenger seat. Craziest story I've ever heard. When I was a kid I slept walk really badly and would also sometimes quasi-sleepwalk where I was aware and would remember it later, but would be out of my duckin' mind confused and semi-dreaming while it happened. I woke up in the middle of the night one night at 7 or 8 years old and there was apparently a power outage because it was pitch black in my room, no nightlight, and no light coming in my window from the streetlights. I wanted to leave my room and go wake up my parents because I was freaked out about the dark but got disoriented and confused my closet door with my bedroom door and started panicking because I thought someone stacked a bunch of shit outside my bedroom door to trap me. Started throwing shit out of my closet and got to the back wall. Now, my childhood home had a dormer-style upstairs added before we lived there such that my bedroom was on the same level as the attic over the original house area. There was an access panel to the attic in my closet and I somehow managed to get that open and escaped my room into the attic. Around that time I fully woke up the rest of the way to full lucid consciousness and freaked the duck out not knowing where I was. I was surrounded by dusty ass boxes and spiderwebs and started screaming my ducking brains out. Turns out the part of the attic I was in was directly over my parents' bedroom and I scared the shit out of them because my screaming was coming from their ceiling. They start freaking out and I was in there screaming for a solid 5 minutes before my parents were able to figure out what happened and rescue me. I am 36 years old now and still have the occasional nightmare about waking up in that attic. With that I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment to help my channel lose its virginity. And until next time.